What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus package update, daily news, pretty much everything going on here in our country and in Washington, D.C. Remember that new videos come on here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below and help us reach our goal of 400,000 subscribers. It's completely free to subscribe, and it makes sure that you won't miss out on new videos every single day. Also, if you notice, it is snowing out here in Ohio, our first major snow of the year. Yeah, so yeah, you can see the snow already happening. If you don't get snow where you are, I guess you can enjoy our snow. Yeah, it's a long winter ahead of here. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Yeah, so we got a lot to cover here in our episode here, so let's jump right in. If you find these videos helpful, don't forget to hit the like button for us down below, and here we go. Okay, as you can see here, 500,000 Americans can expect payments worth $285 on Monday. Are you one of them? I think these checks were supposed to be $300. Apparently, they're going to be $285, which is kind of strange, but over 500,000 Americans are going to get these. Yeah, beginning Monday, Americans will receive $285, a one-time check. Residents of the state of Maine will receive the check. This is part of the state budget agreement aimed at assisting those who worked through the pandemic in 2020. As a thank you for working, 524,754 residents of the state will receive a $285 disaster relief payment. Yeah, the state assessor was given access to the disaster relief payment program in order to locate those who were eligible for payments before deciding on a payment that would not exceed $300. I guess that's where the $300 payment number came from. The tax assessor divided the $149.8 million set aside for 524,754 residents after determining how many citizens would become available. So, are you eligible? To be eligible, all you have to do is make under $75,000. I guess that's how they determine that you are a eligible worker. You basically make under $75,000 or $150,000 as a married couple, or $112,000 if you're a single filer head of household, which is basically pretty much the same income requirements as the third stimulus check payment for the country. But of course, this is for the state of Maine. Also, the child tax credit payments are going out to 65 million children, or about 40 million families across the nation for the whole country. Those are $250 to $300 checks right now. In fact, I've already seen comments down below in the comments section that a lot of people are already getting them. They're already hitting bank accounts across the country right now, going out to 65 million children. Of course, they don't actually send the check to children. They send it out to the parents or grandparents who claim the children. So those checks are going out. They're already hitting bank accounts right now. So look for those right now. Of course, there's always seems to be some fiasco or some delays for those. So I'll keep you updated in case you don't get them or something along those lines. As well as if you're still waiting on your California Golden State stimulus check for the California state stimulus check, 784,000 state stimulus checks for the state of California, which are going out to about 27 million people for the state of California, which has very similar income requirements as well, people making under $75,000. They're sending out 784,000 more checks this week alone. So almost a million more going out this week as well. So they're still sending those out as well. And I'll keep you up to date as more and more states, cities, and counties determine to send these out as well going forward. Remember that states, cities, and counties got about $350 billion from the third stimulus check package, and the vast majority of that money is still available, just sitting in their coffers, kind of collecting interest as they determine how to spend that money. The majority of states, cities, and counties have already done their, or had already done their budgets and have to vote on it and determine now for 2022 or now we're deciding how to spend the money. So we hope that more states, cities, and counties will start to send out the money in the form of state stimulus checks or hazard pay checks or whatever they want to call it. We'll hope to decide to send it out in the form of money for their residents. We also just had a big one that we covered like a day ago, that the state Senate of Massachusetts had just passed. You can see here, this is the state Senate of Massachusetts had passed a spending bill with bonuses of up to $2,000 for Massachusetts essential workers for hazard pay. Eligible workers must have worked in person during the state of emergency that began in March 2020 and lasted for more than a year. Their household income must not be more than 300% of the federal poverty level. They're still determining what will qualify as an essential worker, but they're suggesting that this could be healthcare workers, long-term care workers, public health staff, childcare workers, educators, school staff, farm workers, food production workers, grocery store workers, other service workers, transportation workers, including truckers, utility workers, and foster care parents. So a lot of people would be considered for this Massachusetts bonus of up to $2,000 stimulus checks, which the state Senate just passed. So, and we've seen other states do this, like Florida, Texas, and I believe Michigan, where they've sent out kind of hazard pay or stimulus checks to teachers and other people for like $1,000 or so as well. So I will keep you up to date as more and more of these programs roll out, state stimulus checks and anything that comes available, and on this channel, so stay tuned. Meanwhile, as they're trying to pass the next stimulus package, the American Families Plan or the Build Back Better Plan, which they could be voting on as early as tomorrow in the House, President Biden's approval rating is at a record low in a new Washington Post and ABC News poll.
A response, perhaps, to the political reality. A brand new poll from the Washington Post ABC News shows Biden's approval rating sinking to 41%, a new low, largely because of a negative shift among Democrats and independents, as 70% of the American people, according to this poll, rate the economy negatively. 70%. 63% of the American people think Biden has not accomplished much so far. Joining us now to discuss, top economic advisor to President Biden, Brian Deese. Brian, thanks for joining us. So let's start on this dire inflation report. Take a look at how much prices have risen over the last year. Regular gas prices up more than 50%, utility gas 28%, used cars, beef, pork, eggs, all up. This new Washington Post poll shows 70% of those polled view the economy negatively, 38% say the economy is in poor condition. How concerned are you and the president about inflation, and what specifically are you doing to fix it?
Well, inflation is high right now, and it is affecting consumers in their pocketbook and also in their outlook for the economy. But those concerns underscore why it's so important that we move forward on the Build Back Better legislation, this legislation that the House is going to consider this week. This, more than anything, will go at the costs that Americans face. You talk about healthcare, one of the biggest costs that American families face. This will lower prescription drug prices, put a cap on prescription drug costs for our seniors. Childcare, not only a big cost driver for families, but a big impediment for more parents and women to get back into the workforce. This bill will cut the cost of childcare by more than half for most working families. And housing, too, a big cost driver for families. This bill will build affordable homes all around the country to make it easier for families to afford housing and also to move to places where the job opportunities are. All of these things go right at lowering costs for American families, and this bill is fully paid for. It's not going to add to inflationary pressures, quite the opposite, because we're going to pay for everything in this bill by raising taxes on big companies, large corporations, and the highest income Americans. So there's an urgency to act. The House is going to consider this bill this week, and we're looking forward to making progress in getting this done.
Right, but nothing you just mentioned, assuming that everything you're saying is accurate and comes to pass the way you want, nothing you mentioned would bring down grocery prices, would bring down gas prices. For instance, let's just take gas prices for a second. Is President Biden willing to open the Strategic Petroleum Reserve? Is he willing to stop gas and oil exports so as to alleviate the gas price issue at the pump?
Well, we are very committed to do everything that we can to make sure that American consumers don't bear the brunt of high gas prices and volatile energy prices. And the president has made clear that all options are on the table. We're monitoring the situation very carefully. One of the things that we're really focused on right now is making sure that American consumers don't actually get taken advantage of. One of the things that we've seen in oil and gas markets is because of consolidation, we have fewer large companies actually controlling the market. And so at moments like this, there's a real concern of price gouging or market manipulation that could put consumers could actually harm consumers. So we've asked the Federal Trade Commission to take a very close look at that right now in the current market conditions. And we're also engaging internationally with our counterparts to make sure that other oil-producing nations are not taking advantage of the strength of the recovery and actually profiting at the American consumer's expense. So all those issues are on the table, including Strategic Petroleum Reserve. We're monitoring that closely, and we'll continue to do so.
So, Brian, you saw the bad poll numbers for the president when it comes to the economy. I don't know how much of a factor this was, but President Biden finally publicly acknowledged inflation is worrisome this week. I want to play some sound of what you and President Biden were saying a few months ago in June.
By the way, talking inflation, the overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down. No one's talking about this great,
To the degree that people are focused on inflationary pressures in the short term, that really is not the issue.
Do you think that you and the president were wrong and inflation is not a short-term pop up a little bit and then go back down issue?
No, I don't think so, Jake. I think what we have said consistently is that the pandemic and the economy are interlinked. And certainly we saw, just as the Delta variant posed real health challenges to the economy, it also had economic impacts. More people were consuming goods at home, watching TV rather than buying a new television, rather than going out to the movies and spending on services. And so that's added to some of the supply chain challenges that we face. But we're seeing these price increases as inflation globally because of the supply chain challenges associated with COVID. That's why we're going right at attacking those issues right now as well. In the very immediate term, we're working with ports around the country to get goods moving more quickly through the economy. And this infrastructure bill, the bipartisan bill that the president will sign tomorrow, is the most significant step that we will have taken in decades to actually invest in the arteries that help move goods more quickly through our economy, more cheaply through our economy, and was designed so that we can move out quickly on some areas like our ports to try to start providing some relief. So we have been focused on this issue. We continue to be focused on this issue in the short term, but also addressing these medium-term issues as well.
So, but you talk about the Build Back Better Act, which is $1.75 trillion as a solution to this problem, but your predecessor under President Obama, Larry Summers, he pointed this week to the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan that was passed earlier this year in March. He said that's a major reason behind the rising inflation, something he called at the time, quote, the least responsible macroeconomic policy we've had in the last 40 years. Is it possible that Americans are suffering now from high prices because the Biden administration overstimulated the economy with all of this money going into the economy?
Well, no, that's not our perspective. The American Rescue Plan saved us from an acute economic emergency. It's hard to remember, but recall that when the president took office, there were 18 million people collecting unemployment benefits and 3,000 Americans a day dying. But Professor Summers agrees on the Build Back Better plan that it will not increase inflation, and actually making investments in things like lowering the cost of childcare or providing universal preschool will actually improve the productive capacity of our economy. So I think we actually know what we need to do here. We need to make a fully paid for investment that will actually unlock more opportunity, get more people working in the economy, and that's where our focus is.
If you are standing by your statement and the president's statement that inflation is transitory, short-lived, when do you think inflation is going to go back below the 2% level considered normal?
Well, look, there's lots of independent experts that make predictions. Most believe that inflation will moderate next year. But I really think that, consistent with what you were talking about before, most Americans are less interested in predictions and they're more interested in actions and seeing concrete action to try to address these issues. That's what our focus is. And the poll that you put forward showed that a significant majority of Americans support the components of the Build Back Better agenda because it is oriented toward delivering on the practical cost issues that they face in their lives. Housing, healthcare, childcare, transportation. These are things that typical Americans are dealing with,
Right.
and these are solutions that we can provide. And action is going to speak louder than words. We recognize that. That's what the American people are looking for, and that's
Right.
why we are focused on moving this bill through Congress and getting this infrastructure bill implemented without delay.
So is Build Back Better, is that act going to pass the House this week?
Well, we are confident that it will. We are confident that Speaker Pelosi is going to bring it up and that it will pass this week. We'll move forward in the next process and moving it to the Senate.
Yeah, a lot of good questions there. Is the Build Back Better plan going to pass the House this week? Good question there. What is going to be in the bill? Good question there. The really bigger question there is that if it passes the House this week, what is going to significantly change in the Senate with Senator Joe Manchin, Senator Kyrsten Sinema? How dramatically is the bill going to change in the Senate? Will Senator Joe Manchin come on board and pass the bill in the Senate? And how quickly will that happen? Will they pass the debt limit in time by December 3rd-ish? And the government shutdown bill? Will the Republicans come on board and prevent a government shutdown and or a debt limit as well? Will they include a adult stimulus check in the bill? Ultimately, by the time the Senate gets the bill, of course, we know the child tax credits are in there as well, monthly checks for 65 million children. But remember that the last payment for that will be December 15th. But the debt limit is actually before then, which means the Treasury will run out of money before that payment on estimated December 3rd, which means that if they don't pass the debt limit before then, that payment potentially might not even go out if they don't pass the stimulus package before then and raise the debt limit and actually fund the Treasury, give the Treasury money with this whole fiasco, for lack of a better word. And then we have inflation, gas prices, grocery prices, the supply chain. We have the physical infrastructure package, which is supposed to be signed tomorrow with the President Biden signing ceremony. We also have the House of Representatives, which is going to potentially take up the voting process for this bill tomorrow as well. We'll have to see what happens with that. They're waiting on the Congressional Budget Office scoring reports, estimates. From my understanding, we're probably not going to have the entire reports back for the Congressional Budget Office report. So what is going to happen tomorrow is that we're going to have to see what the moderate Democrats in the House say. So are they going to vote on it? Because the agreements, from what I understood, is that the Congressional Budget Office reports would come back. They would be able to go over them. And then if the report said everything that the bill was fully paid for and it was what they expected, then the moderates would say they would vote for it. But we're not expected to have the full Congressional Budget Office reports back by tomorrow. We're only supposed to have estimates and incomplete reports tomorrow. So the question is, are they going to vote on it? Is it going to be satisfactory? Are they going to delay it? And what is going to happen tomorrow? Are they going to wait for the full Congressional Budget Office reports to come back and vote on it in the House? Now, remember, the House is going to then, if and when passed, pass it to the Senate, where then Senator Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, Senator Bernie Sanders are then going to have a different battle where they're going to have at it and probably change the bill, and maybe even significantly. It's literally going to be Bernie Sanders versus Joe Manchin. And Bernie Sanders is going to say, hopefully stand up for the people. Joe Manchin is going to say, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. Bernie Sanders might go at it and say, well, we got to have this for the people, we got to have this for the people. And the problem is that you need both of their votes. So, for example, if Joe Manchin says, I'm not voting for it, you can't pass the bill. So this is where it gets interesting. But remember that even after all this is said and done, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema did do this with the third stimulus check package, and at the end of the day, they both voted yes for the third stimulus check package. Remember, none of that was paid for. There was literally zero paid for. It literally was all just added to the national deficit, just like the main stimulus package 1 and 2 underneath former President Donald Trump. Remember, those two underneath Trump and stimulus package 3 underneath Biden, all three of those there were no pay-fors. They all just went to the national debt. 2 underneath Trump, 1 underneath Biden. There were no pay-fors. They weren't paid for at all. Okay. This next stimulus package, they're saying, is going to be fully paid for. So very, very different. Remember that the physical infrastructure package was almost paid for. They say it added about $200 billion to the national deficit. That is a little misleading because we had a Republican senator on the show give an interview that said that's a little misleading because there was some other things that the Congressional Budget Office didn't give them full credit for. This is a Republican saying that, okay? Because there was unemployment money, billions and billions of dollars that, remember when the Republican governors opted out of the unemployment bonuses, they were going to use that money to also fund the physical infrastructure package, but the Congressional Budget Office didn't give them credit for that, okay? So there was additional money in there that was helping pay for the physical infrastructure package that they weren't given credit for, okay? So it's actually a little bit closer to fully paid for, but probably not fully paid for, but closer to it. So keep that in mind. Not that I'm defending the package or anything. I'm just kind of trying to bring you guys the truth. Again, I'm not one side or the other. That was actually a Republican point of view, and Republicans are actually kind of more so against the package. So again, not that I'm defending it or against it, I'm just kind of trying to bring you guys the truth of pretty much all these matters here. So this next stimulus package, they're saying, is going to be fully paid for. Remember, there are several Democrats that are saying they're not going to vote for the bill if it's not fully paid for. So keep that in mind. Joe Manchin's one of them. So if the bill's not fully paid for, Joe Manchin's probably not going to vote for it. So I know a lot of people say they're lying. It's not paid for. It's not paid for. Well, guess what? If it's not paid for, Joe Manchin's probably not going to vote for it. Okay. So just keep that in mind. So I see that comment. They're lying. They're lying. It's not fully paid for. Well, if it's not fully paid for, Joe Manchin's not going to vote for it. Okay. So just keep that in mind. So now remember, the things are changing by the day, and I'll keep you up to date on everything going down here. So make sure to subscribe down below. It's completely free to do so, so you don't miss out on new videos. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll bring you the truth on everything going down here in Washington, D.C., and with our country, this next stimulus package, and daily news that you need to know about. You can click here to watch my newest video. And this video is how there is 9 different stimulus checks and stimulus package and money and different things going on right now. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.